This video is not going to be lush related. If you feel that you are of a nervous disposition, of a weak disposition, or a disposition where your mental health might be affected by what I'm going to say, given the title, I would appreciate it if you didn't watch this. I don't want to trigger anybody whatsoever. That's not my intention. For those who don't already follow me on my private account, My Own Spiritual Awakening, you probably don't have a clue what's been going on with me recently, but you're more than welcome to add me. I am set to private because I don't wish to share this information with a lot of people, which might seem a little bit contradictory of what I'm about to talk about today. But I feel today's video is more of a standpoint. I'm making a stand for something, and therefore I feel I need a bigger audience to do it in. For those who don't know my situation or haven't kept up with my situation, for whatever reason, I'm not the be all and end all. I went through very dark breakup of my relationship a couple of months ago, where my mental health plummeted to a level that I've never experienced in my life. And very shortly after that, I don't want to go into too much detail on this platform right now, very soon after that, this diagnosis, or not really a diagnosis, they don't tend to diagnose you nowadays, but this whole idea of borderline personality disorder came up, which fit me to a T. It made a lot of sense to me when nothing else had ever made sense to me before in terms of my mental health. So as most of you watching will know, I am going through DBT, which is dialectical behaviour therapy, to try and learn some skills on how to adapt, cope, and hopefully over a long time eradicate these deep emotional outbursts. But for a long time in my relationship, I have felt very up and down, very emotionally dysregulated, which comes in part to my BPD, but at the same time I recognise wasn't present in my life before, and that was due to the circumstances that were going on around me at the time, which caused my emotional dysregulation to reach a point where I was unable, I felt, to control the outbursts and the intense emotional reactions I had to certain situations, which ultimately led to the downfall and the current breakup of my relationship. For a long time, I have blamed my BPD for losing or causing me to lose my partner. And while I think that my behaviour was toxic, and I'm not making excuses for it, I know that I wasn't willingly having these outbursts. They weren't through choice. I was out of control with these emotional responses, and I wasn't doing it to hurt anybody. In fact, the only person I ended up hurting was myself, I believe. And for a long time I blamed my BPD for the breakdown of my relationship. And now I know that the reason why I reached the point where these emotions were too much for me to handle, and I became toxic in my reactions and my responses to situations, more reactions, they are more compulsive. I realised there was a reason why I reached that dip, and it wasn't me. And if the person who I'm speaking about ever chooses to watch this video, which is very unlikely, they will probably never accept any responsibility for what they did. because they're not that sort of person. Because they have a very, very long journey to go on. And despite my toxic behaviour, which was no way intentionally to hurt or to cause suffering to anybody, and ultimately only caused hurt and suffering for me anyway, despite all this toxic behaviour, my heart was still pure. My compassion and my love and my empathy for myself, for my partner, for my partner's daughter, for the friends and family I had around me was still at full force. That's what makes me special and beautiful, is the amount of empathy and compassion I love I have for the people in and around my life, which is why I want to go down the route over time, once I've healed myself enough to become a healer and to use those special powers I have to help and to heal and to guide other people through their suffering and their traumas. And I know that's my goal, that's my mission. But going back to the point, I've realised now that the reason for my emotions becoming so dysregulated was because of how invalidated and because of how toxic my ex-partner's behaviour was. How unavailable he was to share his emotions, yet how available he was to accept everything I gave him. How unavailable he was to help me through the toughest times, yet how available he was to take all that advice and to take everything he could from me to help him through his times. They say that opposites attract. And through a recent experience, I at the moment disagree with that statement, because I don't think you attract anyone who is opposite of you. From the outside they might appear opposite, but usually it's because they are lacking traits that you have. They just aren't able to express those. And in my partner, he was able to express that vulnerability, which I struggle with, but I will get there. And when I heal myself, my vulnerability will be at full force. So I'm fully vulnerable and open to any experience that comes my way. And for my partner, the abundance of love and empathy and compassion that I hold in myself and I am able to give without even thinking, it just shines and radiates out of me, is something that he lacks of a great deal. And he saw in me a possibility of what he would like to achieve. So I don't feel that we were opposites. In fact, we had a lot in common. But there are things about each of us that we wanted that the other person had. We were just unable to show that. And the reason for this video, almost 9 minutes in, is because up until recently I felt very suppressed in being able to express myself fully. Just briefing over very, very quickly, because I don't want to go into detail right now. Not for any reason, not because I'm embarrassed or ashamed, just because it's another topic altogether. But last year, I went through a terrible stage where, because of how suppressed I had been and how vulnerable I was, but not in a good way, I ended up having an abortion. And there were a lot of complications involved around that. And it's taken me a long time to get to the point where I've forgiven myself. because it wasn't my choice, ultimately. My heart said no, but my brain overruled my heart, and my brain convinced me that it was the right thing to do, but more that it was the right thing to do for somebody else rather than myself. So it's taken a long time for me to heal from that. And maybe I'm not fully healed, but I'm getting there. But what I did during that time was feel that very unsupported by my ex-partner. He wasn't there physically. He didn't see a need to be there physically. Warning bells. I ignored them. Then when I tried to talk to him about these things, I was told that I was being sensitive, that I had to get over it, that I kept repeating myself. I was saying the same things over again. What's it helping? What's it doing? And at the time I wasn't able to vocalise because I hadn't thought about it enough, because I was too in my grief. But now I realised that I had to say it time and time and time again, because I wasn't being listened to. Truly, deeply listened to. So I didn't feel I was being heard, so I felt like I had to repeat it. And I made a choice to post some videos on my Lush UK site, which I've since made private. Because when I reached out, more as a way of I wanted some advice, I wanted some support. I wanted to feel like I'd done the right thing, that there were people out there who wanted to listen and wanted to care. My ex-partner didn't like that at all. Told me to delete the messages, to delete the videos. That it was our business, our private business, no one needed to know. And he worried, more than my mental health and more than how I was feeling and what I'd been through, he worried more that his ex-partner would see the videos and what would she think. That's what he worried about more, that his ex-partner or his friends would see the video and what would they think. Rather than, oh my God, let me help you, let me support you, let me be there for you. Dear God, this is such a massive thing for you to go through. And since then, every time I have opened myself up about something or become upset about something, I have just been told that I'm being too sensitive, that I'm oversensitive, that I'm being too dramatic, that why do I do everything so seriously? Why do I take things so seriously all the time? Everything's fine, everything's all right. And I realise now that during this whole time, something was going on that only yesterday somebody vocalised it into words for me. And this is sort of the reason I'm doing this video. Because I want there to be at least one person out there who resonates with this video and makes a change now. Because sometimes when you're in the midst of something, you don't see things for who or what they truly are. And yesterday somebody sent me, thank you to that person, somebody sent me a quote and listing all of the things that somebody who was mentally abusing somebody else might do. Somebody who might mentally or emotionally abuse somebody, how they would act, what they would say. And aside from one point on that list, I resonated with every single other point. And that was the first time that I've taken a step back and thought, no, it can't be, no, I'm just jumping to conclusions. I'm trying to make a point here. I'm trying to justify somebody's behaviour. I'm trying to label it as being some form of abuse because I want to be victimised. I want to feel like a victim. And then somebody else, completely different, sent me a link. "35 ways that somebody else might be emotionally and mentally abusing you through gaslighting." And aside from 3 points on that list, everything else, alarm bells, rang true. And I think it's a really, really hard thing, and I'm not anywhere there yet, but I think it's a really hard thing to hear something like that and to think, wow, was I? No, I'm stronger than that. And you put it all on yourself. How was I able to allow such a person to do that to me? How is this person, who I still see as somebody in a positive way, in some small way, able to do that to me? Not him, not her. They couldn't do that to me. They wouldn't do that to me. I'm just making excuses. I'm just. But often we don't realise, in hindsight, and that's a dangerous place to be, in hindsight, because by then the damage is already done. And today, I've been left feeling disappointed in myself for allowing someone to suppress me to the point where I've questioned my sanity and my mental health has dipped to the level it's dipped to, and now I have a lot of work to do to get myself back on my feet again. And I allowed somebody else to do that. We don't have to debate whether my mental health was right by that point, but it happened. And I'm also disappointed by the fact that still this person affects me. This person disappointed me today when I reached out and asked a couple of non-emotive, non-demanding questions about some of my possessions that I wanted back. And his response was like the tantrum of a toddler. And yesterday and today I've had a few questions from him, clearly him just wanting something from me. Him who reached out to me a couple of weeks ago, all woe is me, that had been bitten by mosquitoes in Thailand, had been in hospital for days, had lost himself and it would take him weeks to get himself back on his feet, telling the person that he made homeless, telling the person who he allowed their mental health to get to a level where they felt their life wasn't worth living, and then throwing them out the house, and then 2 days later asking me to pay the energy bill. The person who he will never probably take responsibility for, for accepting that his lack of emotional support, his lack of compassion, his lack of empathy is ultimately what drove our relationship apart and what ultimately drove me into a pit that I now have to work very, very diligently to get myself out of. People such as this are very toxic and they destroy lives. And while people can say they build their own karma, maybe the being in hospital with mosquito bites was part of his karma for how he treated me. I don't know. When he grows older and his daughter resents him because of the way he's been treating her and the way he is treating her right now, and the psychological and the mental problems that his daughter is most likely going to have because of the way he is right now, and that's not me fabricating anything. This is something that I've known for a long time, and I've really, really tried to stop it from happening, knowing my experience. Maybe that'll be his karma. But in him being served his karma, other people have suffered alongside. And now I have to deal with it being my karma too. Because I'm too compassionate, because I share my love too easily, because I am too empathetic, I have ultimately been pushed into the ground. And I think it's too harsh a lesson for me to learn. Jen, don't be so loving. Put your boundaries up. Don't be so trusting. Suffering is a choice. I don't have to suffer. And I'm just trying to build my mental health up enough to know that and to actually follow that through. So I think the main point of this video, for anyone who's got to the end, is if you feel you're in a situation the same as me, where you're called too sensitive all the time, when little tiny things that you think are just a normal part of a relationship but are told that I can't expect those things, that I'm asking for too much, I want you to reflect on whether or not it is too much. Is it too much to ask somebody to support me when I'm going through the most horrific time of my life last year? No. I shouldn't need to ask. Is it too much to ask somebody to send me some text messages throughout the day when they are away in another country for 7 weeks and I'm feeling a little bit lonely and like I miss them because they are my partner? No. It's not too much to ask. Has this person taken everything from me they can possibly take from me and discarded me when I'm more hassle now because of my mental health? Yes, they have. And so today's video is just about me expressing this to the world, so that if there's any resonance in what I've said today from anybody out there, and I can help them get out of a situation and find that strength to do so before it gets worse, or just offer any support for anyone who has been through this and doesn't feel that they have a voice to speak out. I'm not saying I'm healed by any way, shape or form. I have a long, long journey to go. But if I can help others, I'm already on my way to becoming some form of healer. And today I just didn't want to feel suppressed anymore. I didn't want to be ashamed to post this video online. I didn't want to feel afraid of what this person would say. Because I know that no matter what I have done, no matter how toxic my behaviour became and my mental health dipped to the lowest point in my life, I have never ever once lost my compassion and my love and my empathy. I have never once lost that part of me, which is the strongest, most deep-rooted part of me, and is a true reflection of how beautiful I am, even at my most vulnerable, even at my worst. And every bit of behaviour from his side just shows a reflection on him. And I actually hope that he does watch this video. He will never admit to himself for a long time. And I just pray to the universe that he is able to find that strength and find that healing. And heal himself to that greater level where he can see that. He can realise his toxicity and he can change things. I really want that for him. I know he's trying his best to heal himself, but by God, he's got a long way to go. Because it's not about what you say. It's the words that you speak and the actions together. And with some people, it's just words. With me, at times, it's just been words. When I promised that I wouldn't have these outbursts, but that was a promise I wasn't able to make because I didn't realise my mental health was so low. I didn't understand my mental health at the time. But now when I say, I promise to do this, or I promise to do that, I really mean it. But I just hope for him, hope the universe gives him that strength, helps him find that path to heal himself from this deep rooted ugliness inside that allows him to treat myself, ex-partners, his daughter in the way that he has and does. Or at least unlifts the veil so he can see the destruction around him and know that that is a reflection of his actions. I really wish the best for him. And even most recently, I've tried to extend that and help him. And just be a caring, listening ear. And as to be expected, his responses have not been very positive. Because he sees me as the enemy now. Doesn't see me as something he can gain from me, so I'm not an interest. All I can say to the universe, and to him if he's watching, which he won't be, I don't think anybody has ever loved him as much as I have. And deep down still do. He has lost the best thing that ever happened to him, aside from his daughter. I'm an incredible person. And when I'm nurtured and supported, I'm a goddess. And he lost that because he's not there yet on his journey. And it's just a shame that somebody can spend years of their life trying to heal themselves as he has, but he's still not able to fully see the path in front of him and the pathway behind him. You don't want to look back into the past, that's not where you're going, but to see the destruction behind you might give you an idea of how you tread forward. And for me, it just took one experience to realise so many things about myself, which I'll talk about in another video. It took such little time for me to realise and figure out, oh, I need to heal this, this, this and this. And that took me a matter of months. So I really hope he has his epiphany, his moment, soon, so that he can get the help and the healing that he needs. Reflect upon his behaviour, make amends with those he can, accept those that he can't. And as I say, live forever knowing that he lost the person who will always, always love him the most. And I don't say that lightly because I mean it. Wow. He's the luckiest person to have that heart. He just didn't realise it at the time. Thank you for watching this video. And I hope it's given some insight to some of you into, I don't know, into life, into understanding the dynamics of your relationship. If you're watching this with your partner, show them that love. Show them how lucky you are to have them. And build and communicate together, because that's all it takes is communication and respect. And that's all it would have taken from him. A little bit of communication, a little bit of respect, support, and listening skills. I love you all. Thank you for listening.